Yo, what's good, y'all? Welcome to another episode of the They Call Me Daddy, a Parents Podcast. Let me introduce my co-hosts. We got Mack and we got Mondo. My name is Torrean, aka Daddy. What's going on, y'all? How y'all feeling?
What's going on, y'all?
No, I'm straight. I'm straight.
Okay.
That was just a pause. That was just me looking up, man. Because every time this dude Torrean calls himself daddy, as if that is his government name, it makes me roll my eyes. You know.
Yeah, it's not my government man. My government name is more of my just name I have adopted over the years. You know what I'm saying? So
The alias you gave yourself.
nah, definitely did not give it to myself.
You like the cat that comes to the gym and has all the gear on but can't hoop. Like, is that how you got that name?
Oh, damn. Not one of them.
Definitely not. Definitely not.
It's all good, nigga. I'm just going to refer to you as Swiss.
Nah, Swiss is my vibe, my mood. We're going to have to talk about that, though, in the check-in, man. So let's check in. How y'all fellas feeling today?
Man, I'm all good, man. You said like you got a story to tell, man. So I'm ready to hear what you got.
All right, go for it, bro. Jump on in, Swiss.
All right, so Swiss has calmed down. So Swiss is a vibe. You know, I call myself Swiss. I have a Switzerland vibe. So I did give myself like just kind of that. It's not a nickname, but whatever.
What about cats that don't even know what Switzerland is, bro?
So Switzerland is a country, and they remain neutral. Like, you know, it's a country in Europe. They remain neutral. Never really hear about Switzerland in the news about them picking a side or, you know, whatever. They're just kind of the neutral country that, you know, kind of, you know, just stays in themselves. And that's what I'm trying to become. You know, I used to be a hot-headed individual once upon a time. And so, you know, Switzerland is just my way of just kind of saying, hey, man, I just mind my own business. I stay to myself. And, you know, I don't ever try to get, you know, too riled up anymore. But somebody did test my fucking Switzerland this weekend, bro.
Uh-oh.
And so I'm finally calm enough where I could tell it without yelling because, you know, a nigga almost did get fucked up. So anyway, I'm just saying. So like Switzerland, you know, the flag got raised. Like, you know, Switzerland had to intervene a situation at the Chiefs-Viking game this weekend. And so I'm going to tell y'all what happened. So let me just say, when we go to Chiefs games, I have Chiefs season tickets. Shout out to all the Chiefs out there, Kansas City Chiefs. I have Chiefs season tickets. When I go there, we stand the entire game. I mean, we're rarely sitting. Might sit in between quarters or something like that. But, you know, the Chiefs fans are the best fans in the world. We're always yelling, always, you know, up, making sure, you know, we're bringing the energy into the stadium. And so, you know, we get to the Chiefs game or the Chiefs-Vikings game in Minnesota. And it was at US Bank Stadium. We're in our seats and we're just kind of sitting down. First play of the game, Chiefs get a fumble. So my lady, she stands up and she's watching the game. Keep in mind the other three of us that are with us, we're just kind of sitting down at this point, like, okay, we're kind of getting a vibe to it. But then you hear people in the background, hey, number 10, sit down. Number 10, sit down. Comments start to get a little bit more ruder. You know what I'm saying? Like, and at some point in some time, you know, my girl's like, hey, I paid for my seat too. You know, I can stand if I want to. And somebody's gonna tell her, well, then use your seat. At that fucking moment in time, Switzerland had to come out, bro. Like Switzerland was like, man, I turned around, I said, you better watch what the fuck you saying. Like, you know, I had to clap my hands, let them know, like, I'm not gonna play with the disrespect. You're not gonna disrespect my woman, bro. Like, by no means necessary, you're not gonna disrespect my woman. And you're a grown ass man talking to a woman, trying to tell her you should use her seat. She's a grown ass woman too. She paid just like you did. Stand your bitch ass up, motherfucker. You know, like we always, bro. Switzerland snapping right now, but
nothing.
We always stand all the Chiefs. The hand clap, bro, because I had to let them know, like I was not playing in that moment, bro. Like it just.
I thought you said you could tell the story without yelling.
Yeah, because now that I'm reliving the moment, bro. I'm having to. You know, I realize like the mic is going to the red, but yeah, so man, I had to.
Let me ask a question, right? So, like,
hold on, bro.
Oh, I'm not
quite. I'm not quite done yet. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, in that moment, man, I'm big on respect, and you know, I'm big on respect. You could have just asked us nicely. Like Minnesota people are very passive. You know, that Minnesota nice bullshit that's all fake and shit. You know, you could have just asked nicely, like, hey, you know, I can't stand. can you please sit down? I don't know what your situation is, but as Chiefs fans, we're used to standing up. And this is the reason why Chiefs fans were louder on Sunday than Minnesota fans. Like, y'all need to, if you really care about the Vikings, pour into them. You know, stand up, be loud the entire game if you need to. But all this, oh, we're going to clap like we had a damn opera shit. Nah, bro, we don't bring that vibe here. So shout out to Chiefs Kingdom.
Okay.
Switzerland out. Anyway, go ahead.
All right. One, just to set the context, right? Because I'm trying to visualize this experience. About where were the seats? Like, are these good seats? You know, you spent some money on them, or were they like up somewhere where it's like, come on, bro, we can barely see the ball from here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we was high up, but that's the whole point. Like, the higher you go, the more you're supposed to stand up. Like, so typically at Arrowhead, you know, people on the lower level,
Arrowhead is
Arrowhead's the Kansas City Stadium. Typically lower bowl, you know, they're kind of 50-50. Sometimes they might stand up, sometimes they won't, because it's hard enough to see the play. And from the angle he was at, like, she wasn't even affecting nobody's sight. They was more so probably mad at the fumble than anything. But you know, like, you know, stand up, you know, just get live. We're here at a game, man. Like, this ain't no damn movie. Like, ain't nobody say, oh, this is a library and we can't yell for our team. So anyway.
There's been a lot more like game fights being shown on socials lately. So I'm happy your ass wasn't on World Star.
Nah, I mean, I wasn't gonna let it get to that level, but I had to shut the shit down for that reason. You know what I'm saying?
That's something that's out of your control, though. Because if a nigga's like, "Hey, nigga, quit clapping like a bitch," then what you gonna do? He said, "Uh-oh."
Oh, because you froze, Mac, for good 15 seconds.
Oh yeah, I don't know what's up with that, but that's something that's out of your control.
What is?
How somebody react, because he could have said something that triggered you. You like, all right, nigga, now it's over with.
Yeah, but that's kind of my point, man. We live in this world of internet warriors and shit. It's just like, man, be respectful to everybody, man. Like, ain't nobody trying to be not respectful. You know, ain't nobody trying to be not respectful. But like, yeah, that's just how I feel, man. Go ahead.
Raise my hand.
Yeah, go ahead.
Me raising my hand to ask a curious question, right?
Yeah.
Which is more on some, I'm not questioning or judging how you responded. However, when it comes to sports, is code switching a thing, right? Like, so right, as Black men, right, we've been in situations where we had to code switch, right? So like, let's just say on this podcast, there are no filters. However, in certain environments, there should be filters. And so you said like, yo, when I go to Arrowhead, it's turned up. The norm at Arrowhead Stadium is like, this is how we do it. My question is, were you supposed to be more considerate in the Minnesota nice environment? Just cause? I don't know. I'm asking.
I mean, that ain't something that ain't my problem. Like, yo, if you don't bring the energy to your, I didn't pay my money to fucking go there and be like, sit there and like I said, act like I'm in a library. Like, that's not what I pay money for. So,
okay,
you know, my bad, Minnesota. Like, y'all need to raise your game up. You need to, you know, people that go to Viking games, you need to raise your, you know, show up for your team. I mean, they got this fake ass decimal meter shit showing like 100, 300, 405 decimals. It's like, man, Kansas City Arrowhead Stadium has the record for the highest decibel levels, higher than the motherfucking G5 airplane, 142 whatever decibels. You know what I'm saying? Like 100 decibels, man, that's whack as hell, bro. And then like 50% of the crowd was Chiefs fans in there. You know, it's like, oh,
did
the
Vikings
Chiefs
win?
Of course we won, man. Like, what the fuck? You know, we the world champions for a reason.
I mean, look, shout out to you because you are in the top 1% of Chief fans, right? Like that's your squad.
Yeah,
it's been your squad for a while, and so I know how you rep. I ain't gonna question or doubt how you rep for your team, because there were many years where the Chiefs were trash, and you were still repping with that same energy. And
Thank you. But really ain't got nothing to do with the Chiefs. It's more so just respect women. You know what I'm saying? Because that's one reason I got mad. Like, you know, if you want to, you know, you're gonna try to disrespect my woman, like, that ain't happening. We ain't playing that, man. You know.
So what you're saying is, if they were like, "Hey, excuse me, sir, can you have your significant other sit down the whole game?" you would have said, "Yeah."
I mean, it ain't got to be like that, but I'm just saying, even if they would have said, "Hey, can you please just sit down?" That's all they got to say. Like, but by shouting comments and shit, y'all know how motherfuckers be here, man. They be shouting comments under their breath and shit. Like, did you say something or did you sneeze? Like, whispering under the breath. I ain't got time for that shit, bro. And don't be subtle. I ain't got time for subtleness, man. Like, if something was bothering you, you could have easily spoke up. And it ain't even not some rude shit. Like I said, the game just started. Like, y'all don't even know why she was standing. Like, to be real, like, she couldn't see because people were still coming up from their seats, but they ain't thinking like that, So,
all right, Switzerland.
Anyways,
are you
man,
back in Switzerland vibes now? Are you good?
Man, I'm back to just trying to be a loving, respectful person, and my energy, my vibes, everything has calmed down. I apologize for everybody on the podcast that heard me get riled up. I'm back to zen.
All so right. don't
Welcome
poke
back,
the bear. Swiss. Right, is what I heard.
Yeah, don't be a disrespectful asshole. That's all it is, man.
Oh, okay.
Like, Anyway, Mondo, how you feeling, bro?
Oh man, I didn't have one of those moments, so I'm good. I guess I'll say shout out to Mack and his family, right? You talking about significant others, right? The Phillips family, Sadie's had a movie in the park event. I showed up with Cadence, and we just had a good vibe, bro. Like, I don't know, what day was that, Mac? Was it Friday or Saturday?
Cold ass Saturday.
But like on a Saturday, right? It's turning fall. Weather is kind of like, man, it's a little cold out there. To see community come out, just families, right, with their covers and blankets and just laying out watching the Goonies, it was super dope. You know what I'm saying? It was like one of them proud, like, oh, I'm connected to this energy, And so, like, pizza was bomb, popcorn. It was just jumpy house, right? Like all the stuff that you can think about to just come out on a Saturday and just let your kids like kick it and vibe. Like they put that together, bro, and it was dope.
Man, I appreciate you coming too, bro. I love kicking it with my brothers, man, and you made it even better for me, man, because setting all that shit up, getting everything together could be a bit stressful. But as soon as I see you, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have a good night. So I appreciate you coming.
It was fun.
Shout out to Ms. Mercedes, Slice Pizza, Candyland. Yeah, it was a dope little experience.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I mean, no, that is dope. I wish I could have made it. I had friends in town from KC, but Mack and his lady Sadie's, they're really trying to change the community in St. Paul, Minnesota, just by pouring love into it, and bringing back nostalgia events, like a movie in the park, and come pet the dog. The half dog, half human, that Mack is.
That's our next event, the dog show, starring TD you, over there. Yeah,
grab your leash, bro. Like, take pictures with Mack.
It's all good.
But yeah, man. So shout out to y'all though, for real, man. It's big to me. It's big to even see that happening, and it's not even like it's just like a new thing. It's just consistency over the years. So
and while we giving shout outs, man, shout out to the love from the people, the love that people been showing us, man, on the podcast, on social medias, and just the family, people who walking by, who see us in passing, like, oh, I checked out your podcast. Like, man, we really appreciate that. It's pretty dope.
Yeah, it fills the cup, right? It's like, we come and do this for us, right? Because we need this time and this space to just vibe and love on each other. But then when you go out in the community and cats are like, hey, man, that was funny. Hey, man, what y'all talk about next? Hey, man, like my pops. Hey, man, that was interesting. And I'm like, what does interesting mean, right? Which is a completely different topic, right? And it was all good, right? But, just hearing that feedback is just like, oh, cats are listening, right? Sometimes you wonder before you do something like, is anybody going to care? And then when you actually start doing it and you notice that, like, well, some people care, right? It feels good.
Yeah, we're doing it for all the feels. Like, it doesn't always have to be humorous for you. Like, just for you to open up, and like me and Mondo were talking about a Saturday. Like, after people listen to the podcast, use my sister for an example. When I ask her how she's doing, I get an honest answer now, not just oh, I'm good. And like, she's like, man, I listen to y'all's podcast, and now she's more comfortable to open up, like, and I want that vulnerability from people because it just, releases some of that baggage off of us. So, man, shout out to y'all too, man, for sure.
That, man, I think Torrean kind of hit it on the head, right? With Minnesota Nice. I think there are environments where if you ask somebody how they feeling, they're gonna be like, sit down so I could tell you. But in Minnesota, it ain't that. Everybody just say, oh, I'm good. Oh, I'm fine. But really, right, inside, right, there's something going on that they really wish they can just talk to somebody about. And so, man, us coming together on this podcast, I believe, is somewhat giving people permission to be like, yeah, man, I want to talk about this thing, right? Those taboo things, right? Or just being like, I'm gonna be vulnerable and I might cry in this conversation, but just know I just need you here to just be here. And so,
Yes, sir.
yeah, man. What we got today? Is this a fun loving day or is this a deep day?
So here's a question I have for y'all. So kind of we're talking about feedback from the podcast. How many people have asked you to be on the podcast? Like, hey man, if you ever need a guest, let me know. I've had at least 50 people ask me like, yo, can I be on the podcast? That's and it's pretty dope. So I don't know how y'all feel, man. Should we have a guest? What y'all think?
Man, I most definitely think we should have some guests. I haven't had anyone ask me. I did tell my boy Mang, shout out to Mang, like, hey, bro, I'm gonna have to put you on one day, man. He's a cool, calm, collective, wise, great dad. Like, he's somebody I call to vent to and just, bounce ideas and stuff off of. So shout out to my boy Mang. But that's about it. Some people be scared of this kind of attention, you know what I mean?
For sure.
Not that, I mean, shit, we are too. Like, this is new for us too, except for Mondo,
No, it's all good. I just been in the camera a couple more times than y'all have, but I think it's good. I think it's gonna be super dope. That first lady that we invite on the podcast, right? Because as dads, we throwing stuff from a certain angle, and they're gonna come on, and it's probably just gonna be a different vibe, a different energy. Even if we agree, they're gonna be like, "Yeah, I agree," but like, look at it from this way. And so I'm curious, what it's like from a mom's perspective, or just a woman that ain't a mom, and just like, yo, I'm about to have a kid. Or I want to have a kid, and hearing y'all talk like brings me joy, or it makes me question this thing, or whatever, right? One of the things, I guess I'll just roll into it. One of the things that my pop said when I asked him about this podcast being interesting, like, what does that mean? And he effectively said, yo, the way that you fellas approach parenting is a lot different than I approach parenting, right? I'll point to that rigidity clip, right? He was just like, yo, when it comes to cadence, my daughter, his granddaughter, he's like, yeah, man, like, she can't go nowhere if she's living with me, right? Just very much like protective dad, grandpa energy, which is what he's supposed to have, right? And so just having conversation of kind of being that bridge, right? Like, we're in the middle, right? We're millennials in mid-30s. And then again, we got our OGs that think a certain way, but then we got these younger parents, right, that think a different way. And so we're in the middle trying to bridge that gap and create conversations between grandparents and these young parents, because right now they can't see on the same page. And so I think it's really dope just to kind of be in the middle and just have, I don't even want to say wisdom, but just have a perspective that allows people to at least get real close to being like, well, we can at least start here and have a conversation. Like, this is a starting point.
For sure. And so, like, with that being said, if you want to join the conversation, like, get on social media, come to our, little link tree. There's a form on there right now that says, join the conversation, ask questions, or, ask a question or bring a perspective, and we'll shout you out. Like, we're really about this being a grassroots effort type of podcast where, we're really talking about real life shit, and it's from people's lives. So if you want to join the conversation, reach out on social, reach out in private, and feel like you can be a part of this, because it's not, we have conversations every day, and that's why this was a natural thing for us to come up with this podcast. Like, man, we talk about our shit, but some people just don't. It's like, if you feel like you can't, we could talk about it. Mondo could talk about anything. So, and Mack's seen a lot from the ground up, you know what I'm saying? So we got different perspectives from everything,
No, for sure.
Hey,
But
man,
if you come on though, man, you gotta bring that real shit though, man. Don't come on here, trying to act like everything all peachy, bro. You gotta,
that's real.
you gotta always be 100 on here.
Yeah, so even if you submitting questions, right? Like, yo, like, man, I'm scared to talk about this, bro. But can y'all talk about this and go there, right?
For sure.
Nah, for sure. So, okay, so here's a hypothetical question for y'all. So today I would love to talk about dreams, right? And like talk about just our dreams, the dreams we want for our kids, the dreams we want for the world, whatever, wherever the conversation may go. But here's a hypothetical conversation. Let's say, you got a brand new father who hates their job. Brand new father hates their job. Let's say brand new couple, right? Brand new to parenting. They both don't like their job. They're both trying to make it. And one decides, hey, I want to take this risk. I want to take a risk on starting a new business. I have this dream to always be a business owner, and I'm going to go after that. They're getting pushback from their family in terms of, nope, you need to be responsible. You need to just stay at your job, raise your kid, and that should be the main focus. What do y'all think about that? Like, should that father or should that mother go after pursuing their dreams, or nah, it's too late. You got too many responsibilities to kind of, go after your business.
I'll start, and then y'all can, help finish it up. But I think the main first thing should be is like make sure that y'all 100% have each other's back through whatever. Like, it's one thing to say it, but it's a different thing to be in a situation and really support. Because like you're gonna have the ups and downs, but you gotta let them, like, it's okay to fail, and I'm gonna be with you the whole way regardless. But at the same time, it's like it's gonna be scary. But I always believe in taking that risk, because even when you're going to work doing the whole 9 to 5, like that brings so much unhappiness that it hurts the crib. Like I was dealing with that myself. Mercedes was dealing with it. Like work was disturbing home because your time is so limited. And so I'm just gonna say, make sure that y'all for sure got each other's backs before you were to start that journey.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, my immediate answer is, yeah, you definitely got to go for your dreams, right? Like, just exclamation point after that. My add-on to that would be, recently, man, the song I've been listening to, like old school song, has been Michael Jackson, Man in the Mirror. And, growing up, when I listened to the song or heard the song, I never listened to the lyrics. You know what I'm saying? I was just like, oh, this is Michael Jackson. This is a vibe. But I challenge you, right, to go back and actually listen to the lyrics, which is really just about, yo, you got to work on you, right? But oftentimes working on you is just going and being brave and doing that thing, right? Whatever it is. And it ain't even got to be about, it could be, I want to go start a business with this carrot of, I want to make some more money, right? Or I want to be independent. But I believe that the reality is you're just going on that journey to like sharpen yourself as a human, right? Like, yeah, the carrot is there and you might get the carrot, but you just have to go on that journey like the Wizard of Oz, you know what I'm saying? Walk that yellow brick road, because along the way, right, you're going to develop the courage, right? You're going to sharpen your mind, right? And you're going to develop a heart and care about some other things. And so I think, man, that dream piece is like, you have to go for it, because if you don't, you're just going to die on the inside. Right. I think everybody has their own Wizard of Oz type journey. Like, oh, I want to be an author and publish this book. Yo, go publish the book for you. Right. Not like, I got to go publish this book because I think it's going to be this. And if it isn't this, right, if it doesn't sell 1 million copies, I feel like a failure. It's like, nah, you just go pour every ounce of everything you have into that book. And it's going to change somebody's life simply because you put that much energy into it. It might be one person, it might be 100 million, but like, just put everything into it. And on the other side, you'd be like, oh yeah, bro, I did exactly what I was supposed to do. So yeah, follow those dreams, fam.
Nah, for sure. And I feel like as adults, like we're, man, I look at my daughter, and like, we're getting ready to go to Disney World next month. But she's always talking about new ideas, and in school we just, what do you want to do when you grow up? I want to do this. She's been wanting to be a firefighter, then a hairstylist, a waitress. Like, there's so many things that she wants to do, but we teach our kids to dream. And then it's like at 18 or 22, 23, once we start getting into a routine of work and, post college, if you went to college, if you never went to college, whatever it is, real life hits, and we kind of forget about our imagination. we forget about our imagination. And so that's why, I brought up the hypothetical, because that was my situation. So what we just talked about actually wasn't hypothetical. That was my story. That was my journey of how I started my own business at the age of 32 for the third time, right? Like because, I'm somebody that, man, I apply for over 100 jobs one year, maybe close to 200 jobs. And I didn't even get a new job. And I got 2 interviews out of that whole thing. And I had to lie on every application to say, oh yeah, I used to be a business owner, but that's no longer a part of me. And that shit would eat up at me every single day, which is probably why I hated my job, because I wasn't being true to myself. It was just like, I was so encapsulated into that failure. The failure just overtook me as an individual, and it kind of killed a side of me that was probably my true self, right? Like that side of me was dead. And so this wasn't a hypothetical, but it's just one of those things where, like, this was actually my journey, and 6 years into it, man, I have no regrets looking back and like going for it. So
Yeah, I know, like, the scariest part for people is like the financial part. Like, well, shit, who's gonna make this money? But man, it's 2023, man. Like, there's so many different hustles you can do now. Uber Eats, all that type of shit. Like, I think COVID really showed me like time is way more valuable than money. So like, do whatever you got to do to hustle, but create your own schedule so that you have that mental capacity to put your drive towards whatever you want to do. So you're not stuck giving all your energy to, a job in a system that just fucking drains you at the end of the day. You know what I mean?
No, that's real. I like to say that, like, we are the art, right? Like, each individual is God's art, right? Like, I think about like walking into a museum, right? And then you look at art and somebody's like, oh, that's a Basquiat. Oh, that's a Anderson. Oh, that's a whatever, right? Like, talking about the artist that created the work. And I look at us, just humans in general, and I'm just like, oh, like, that's a God, right? Like a piece of God's art, right? Like, not on some like, oh, this person is elevated and higher than somebody else, but it's just like every decision that they make, every challenge that they're put in is just God guiding folks on a different road, and everything that they do is just a brushstroke, right? And have you ever seen, like, I remember some years back when I was on social a little bit heavier, where like there'd be some artists on stage and they'll be going ham, like creating something, and the whole time they're making this painting, everybody's like, what is it? What is it? What is it? And then all of a sudden they flip that bad boy.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, oh, right. And so I just look at the human experience as being that, right? Like, we go through this and God keeps painting. Everybody's like, that ain't it. That ain't it. That ain't it. What are you doing? I don't know. And then all of a sudden, bam, that bad boy gets flipped right side up. And they're like, oh, dang, Torrean, the coldest podcast cat out, right? Like, but he had to go through all these other things and all these other strokes until you turn that thing the right side up. And so, man, whatever it is that you're doing, bruh, just keep painting those strokes. Like, don't stop, because eventually when you flip that thing, you're like, man, this was the dopest journey I could have ever imagined.
Yeah, and I think, kind of piggyback on what you just said, Mondo, is a couple of different things. Like, the outside people are always going to judge you. They're going to judge you no matter what. Like, oh, they're successful. They've, my son is, or my daughter, or my friend, or whoever has worked for the same company for 15 years, and they're so successful and everything else. And it's like, nobody can tell you how you should feel about you. Only you know you. And like, it's one of those things I've learned throughout the years is like, people have, Torrean, well, you got to do this or you got to do this. And it's like, man, I have a degree, went to college, got my degree. I've worked for some companies, and I still just did not feel fulfilled at the end of the day. Like, I had money. I had more, I had money. I mean, I got money now, right? I had to go through this journey of entrepreneurship, or following my dream as a stay-at-home dad, to, go from having money to having no money to having money again. And so, like, that's, but I definitely heard a lot of judgment, right? And it's like, you got to knock off those haters. And And, so then I can't judge you. Like Max said, you got to have a strong partner. If you have a strong partner, y'all got to stick together. If you don't have a partner, you just got to stay focused and don't let distractions get in your way. Because that's one of the things that I learned for myself is like, man, it was so easy to get distracted, or so easy to feel the pressure, but not fight through the pressure,
Yeah.
I got something, unless you want to go, Mac, I got something that I think is important.
No, go for it.
So this is some awareness that I developed, let's just say over the past 6 months, which is whatever seat that you're sitting in, right? Whatever you believe your art to be, like, sit in it with confidence and gratitude that you are still as equally as important in the story as anybody else, right? And here's what I mean by that, right? Like, we're in this entrepreneur season, right? Like, because it's so easy to start a business on the internet, everybody wants to do it, right? And everybody's looking like, yep, it's me, I'm gonna go blah, blah, blah. And a lot of the times we then look to our left or look to our right and we frown upon the person that stays in that traditional job. However, and I used to be that person, right? Like, man, everybody go and do the thing. But what I learned is, my pops or grandma, right? Like, they have to have the stable job so that house is always there, because as an entrepreneur, we gonna fall, right? Like, failure is so part of the experience that I am now grateful to be able to fall back to my pop's house, to be able to fall back to grandma's house. If my dad and grandma were both out here entrepreneurs traveling, doing all this stuff and didn't have that stable home, right? Then where do you fall? To the streets. Then where do you fall? To some house that is not healthy, right? Toxic environment. And so I just say that because, man, like, appreciate the stable 9-to-5 worker as well, right? Like, I didn't used to say this, right? But I read The Alchemist probably for like the 8th time. And of course, I'm like, oh, Santiago or The Alchemist, right? Going on this journey, doing this dope stuff. But the that glass shop owner, right, that Santiago had to be at for 2 years on his journey, right, was necessary. That glass shop had to be there. It had to be the dude to be like, yeah, I could have went on this journey, but instead I stayed here. And they kind of complain, kind of like a Julius type, right? Like the dad you were talking about, Torrean, right? That's like, man, I go to work every day, all this stuff expensive. It ain't what it used to be, right? But man, that dad or that grandma or that uncle or that friend is so instrumental in the story. And so I just want to give them their flowers too, because too often, right, we just highlight and applaud that entrepreneur. And it's like, yeah, that's cool. But without that person with the 9-to-5, like, you couldn't have got it done. And that might be your partner at the crib, right?
Mm-hmm.
It might be the wife or the significant other that's just like, all right, you're going to do this stuff, and I'm going to go do something that's just as hard, which is shake my head every time I walk into work, right? Because they ain't doing things how it should be done. And so the weight is the same, right? Like, the work is the same. Y'all's just doing it on 2 separate paths. So anyways, man, that was a long ramble, but it's just some awareness that I got recently that was just super important to express.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point, Mondo. Like, I seen my because dreams don't have to just be profession, like that's something that we always think about. It's like, oh, my dream is to be this or to live this life, but a dream could be a trip. Like, it could just be something you visually want to see. Like my grandfather, he was in Vietnam, and he always talked about going back to Italy. Like, he used to always tell us, like, oh, we're part Italian. And then, I took, like, my grandma was like, yeah, I'm from France. And so, until I was like 10 years old and started realizing, like, man, why do we go to family reunions in Tennessee all the dang on time? Like, my family lives here. They ain't from there. But that was my grandfather's dream, was to bring his wife to see Italy one day. Right. And it's like, they focused on their family. They focused on grandkids. He worked for the same company for 36 years. They always talked about going there, but they just never did it. It was just, that was a dream of his, but just, they never did it. And that just kind of taught me, it was like, man, if you want to do something, like, I had to do things now, because dreams do look different. They look different to all of us, And so, like, that was a great point, Mondo, because just because you own a business doesn't mean that you're better than anybody else. Like, we're all just a part of just trying to be the best self we possibly can. And so like that's a great point, Mondo.
And you're trying to be Switzerland, you know what I'm saying? So you should be the best Swiss out, right?
And I'm definitely trying to calm my current nerves, my past, let the past go, and be a lot more calmer of an individual. So yeah, that's a dream. I don't want to go to Switzerland, but they know who the real daddy is.
Because I know one thing Mack said, because I want to bring it back, right? Like Mack is doing a lot of work, hustling, artistic genius, right? But Mack, I remember you saying like, yo, one of my dreams is just to see my grandkids, right? And so like how valuable that dream is, right? Like I'll just say one more small thing. Like I think I lived when I was super young, I lived with my great grandma and grandparents. I mean, great grandma and grandpa with my mom, right? And it's like, yo, the level of generations of, what I'm saying, support that I have been able to experience has been amazing. And so, yeah, man.
They lived upstairs, right?
No, that was when I lived on Hague.
Oh, okay, my bad.
Yeah.
So,
I ain't got too much.
Okay. So here's where I'm at though. We talk about dreams. I feel like our family has, I feel like I never stopped dreaming. Even though those that dead period of time in my life where I was lying to myself, lying on applications and stuff. I feel like I never stopped dreaming to like my goal of being an entrepreneur. Like I remember me telling my aunt at the age of 3, like, I'm going to own my own business one day, and then throughout the years, I wanted to be a sports agent, wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted to do a lot of different things, but I knew like entrepreneurship was always been a part of me. And I would just shout out like our family, because we had some dope examples in our family from our Uncle Gilbert. And like, to kind of give some context, Uncle Gilbert lived what now I realize isn't that far, but what seemed to be far as hell in Minnesota. And we would only go there like, maybe every 3 or 4 months, but it was a big deal. Like, we're going to Uncle Gil's. We would all have to pile up in cars at my grandma's house and then drive out there to, I swear, man, it felt like a 5 or 10 hour drive at the age, right? But
it was like 40 minutes.
Yeah, it was like 40 minutes, and that was it. But yeah, like, we didn't have, I had a Game Boy and shit. So like this, we're talking like throwback, Mack had a puppy bed, instead of a car seat in the back of the car. So, but it's like, going to his house and like seeing how, the size of his house, the activities he would do at his house, it was an experience that really helped. Like, years later, it shows us how, it showed me, just like what life could be, because it was an entirely different experience than what I was used to, living in the inner city, and then shout out to Uncle Michael. Like, he had this dream of this roller rink / gym called Wizards, and Wizards was, it was just like a dope concept, something that still ain't out there to this day. And one summer, Mondo, our cousin Lex, and I worked every single day at Wizards, because he rented out the ice arena in St. Paul to, try his proof of concept. And, Wizards, that was just a one summer thing. But then, boom, he opens the coffee shop that he owned for 23 years. But just everybody from uncles, I took my dad, for example. My dad wrote a book, he's written 2 books as well, but wrote a book when I was like 16, 17 years old, and, still selling copies of that book to this day. So, but uncles, aunts, everybody in our family has always just said, hey, go for it. Like, don't stress, go for it.
What's the current book? It's the perfect time to plug.
Yeah. Okay. So my dad wrote 2 books. One's called Daddy, Can You Hear Me? Which ties in the thoughts between an absent father and their child. So whether they're in the military, maybe a child's dead, or they just don't get to see, or not, the child's dead. The father has died, or they just don't get to see their kid as often as they used to. It kind of interchanges thoughts between and has a conversation between the two. And then his newest book is called My Girl Gigi. So My Girl Gigi is about a girl who has a double Dutch competition, and her grandma wants to surprise her with a trip to Disney World, and the two there's some conflict in the scheduling of the two. And so, but it's about dreams. Like, I just feel like we had the most supportive family. And so, like, just want to shout out everybody in the family for that, for supporting my dreams, but also just keeping that positivity and saying, like, yo, it's not too late, just go after it, just go do it.
No, for sure.
You want to go, Mac? Because, man, I be rambling, bro. I be trying not to dominate these conversations.
Yeah, like,
no, I just think it's funny. I just think it's funny, like, how I was personally impacted by all of our uncles in different ways. Like, I'm most similar to your dad. I don't know if you know it or not, Mondo. Germaphobe, like, family foundation. Anybody need me, bro? Just call me. I'm gonna pull up. I got you through whatever. I don't care if you right or wrong. I got you. And then, like, Uncle Michael, like, he could have took his coffee shop or placed it elsewhere, but did it right in the neighborhood. That's another part of me. You know what I mean? And I remember Uncle Gail growing up. He used to, like, take me and count a school shop and just looking out because, I spoke previously about my dad's situation, but he used to always, like, come take a school shopping and just always used to give me game that I really needed to hear. And, like, just coming from him, like, who I looked at as, like, the man, because his relationship with Prince, and he was always in LA, like, all those guys. I mean, Uncle Doug used to, when he moved to Charlotte, always wrote me letters. You know what I'm saying? He was a DJ who did his own thing, had his own little, I don't want to say little, had his own music group. You know what I mean? Like, so I had ties to him because of the music thing. And it's just all of our uncles impacted me so much. Like, like, yeah, it was whack not having a dad, but it was always dope that I had these male figures that I knew that I could always call and that just always gave me game just out of love. Like, it was always love. So, yeah, shout out to the Davidson brothers, man, for sure.
Yo, as we shouting out Davidson brothers, then let me be the one to shout out the Davidson mom, right? Which is Mack, your mom.
Oh, yeah.
Auntie Rita, right? So, like, Mack, highlighted that his pops was taken from his life early on. Well, my mom was taken from my life early on, right? And so where Mack is talking about how the uncles kind of rallied around, right? And he got a piece from all of them. Man, my Auntie Rita, right? Like, she was my right hand, mama for a long time, right? In that junior high school time where it's just like, if I need somebody to talk to get this woman perspective, like, you go to Auntie Rita. And so, man, shout out to you, Auntie Rita.
Yeah.
We love you. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
sometimes you don't.
Miss Hothead, my Hothead.
Yeah. I just want to shout you out. When you grow up with all these big black dudes, right? Everybody out here running around doing what they do. Sometimes we got to just be intentional and shout out to Pearl. Margarita means pearl. Shout out to Pearl in the family.
No, for sure.
One thing that I'll say about dreams, though, man, it's a story that blew me. It actually, like, changed the arc of my journey. So, like, for me, man, like, being an entrepreneur, changing the world, I'm going to be a billionaire. Like, I used to write on my whiteboard all the time, 11 ones. Like, I'm going to sell a company for 11 ones. So that's $11 billion, 1111. And I was just like, I'm going to dream bigger than all y'all, right? But money was at the center. And I remember a couple of years ago, me and my dad and Cadence, we went to a volleyball tournament in Wisconsin. And, tournament was dope. We had a great time, vibed. On the way back, Cadence was in the back sleep, and me and my dad were just rapping just about life in general. And, he was like, yeah, son, like, if I can go back, I would probably do school a little bit better, or I would apply myself a little bit more. But he's like, outside of that, like, I don't have any regrets, right? And that wasn't really a regret. It was just kind of like, well, what if I would have did this differently? So my pops is always big on, like, no regrets. And then, we're talking, and all of a sudden he's just like, yeah, the only thing I ever asked God for was to live forever. Bruh, let me tell you something. I don't know what movie you can think about or whatever, but when somebody says something so matter of fact, like they're looking you dead in your eyes and you're like, bro, the way that you just told me that with that conviction means you believe that to be true, right? And I share that because my pops, who got up and still gets up and goes to work every day, right? Just that consistent ride or die, I'm going to make sure that everybody's good, as Mack was saying. It's just like, yeah, while y'all out here dreaming about X, Y, and Z, I'm dreaming about eternal life, right? And so just saying that even though he is practical, tactical, right, and just being a hard worker every day, he blew my dreams out the water. Fam, like, in that moment, I was like, man, what's $11 billion to somebody that's going to live forever, right? Like my dreams at that point was just completely obliterated in a way, not in a negative way, because he was just saying what he believed. But I always thought that I was the number one dreamer, right? And just hearing that from my pops is just like, well, I guess I need to reevaluate my dreams, right? Because if that's what you're dreaming, I want to be here with you, right? Just in the sense of like, yo, I love you, pops. So like, if that's what you're thinking about, well, like I want to be part of that plan, right? And so now just being able to say that stuff out loud and just being like, yo, are we dreaming the right dream? Right? Like, is there another dream that we can collectively be dreaming about, rather it's as family, as community, as humans in general? And so, man, I just shout out my pops because he just always drops this piece of wisdom, this thing that completely changes the trajectory of like how I look at the world. And so I just say thank you to that, you know?
No, for sure. So, Mac, you gonna tell us about your puppy dreams?
Nah, man, I ain't. Man, you just can't let this shit go, huh?
Oh,
Come
my
on,
bad,
Rover.
man. I let it go, but you was like, you was whimpering. There was,
Nah,
your
man,
son
so
called me
the
the other
thing
day
is-
talking about you was whimpering over there, and I'm like, he all right? Like, he's like, yeah, I think he's dreaming. I'm like, oh, okay.
No. So the thing is, like, I'm not, a professional or none speaker or nothing, but like I'm a like real listener. So when y'all's talking, bro, I'm like taking it all in and I'm reflecting in my head. So if I get a little, it's not intentionally, but speaking on dreaming, man, I gotta thank y'all too because, growing up in my household when I was young, my mom was the one who would take in anybody. Like she was the one that spreaded love. Like you ain't had nowhere to go. All right, we gonna go to Rita's house. And shout out to Ricky, man. I hope this podcast finds you, man, because I love you, man. I don't get to talk to you as much as I would like to, but like I grew up with him and his friends, and they were like, I call it the neighborhood, but it was pretty much the hood. So I grew up with him and his homeboys, and they were out here in the streets heavy. You know what I mean? So like listening to you guys, like it's kind of sad, but I really didn't dream at all growing up. Like it was more like a survival for me. Like, man, all right, these niggas is out here dying, getting killed. Shit, I just want to survive and make it. You know what I mean? And that's kind of probably part of the reason I'm like, man, I just want to meet my grandkids because, I'm used to death at, people dying young. So shout out y'all because you guys gave me that balance and that different perspective as I got older. Like Trademark Entertainment touring, you like, that was my first thing. Like, all right, I can dream, I could, do that. Mondo, you've always been on that. Like, you went to MCTC, I used to go to practice with you. Like, you was always picking me up in a little tourist. You know what I'm saying? I'm just rolling with y'all, man. Like family is very important. And for the listeners, like surround your kids around people who are positive influences because like you may not know it, but they're soaking all that shit in. And, like you got to give them that balance, whether, it might hurt, but you got to reach out to somebody that you might not have that relationship with, but that you see is doing well and doing different because, and I also want to shout out like, big cousin G Logan, George, Vance and Vinny, like, me being around those type of people really changed my perspective. Like you ain't got to do this street shit. Like, there's other ways and there's way more opportunities doing it this way and your ass gonna live a lot longer. So, man, shout out to all y'all, man.
Yeah, I think the one thing too, to your point though, is it takes a community. It does take a jungle. Like it takes a jungle to raise good kids, but it takes a community to really impact and show a different worldview. Like, if somebody never leaves anywhere, they're never going to know anything else than what it is they see, and like that. I mean, I think that's the powerful thing that you and Mercedes are doing right now in the community, man. Like, y'all providing different perspectives to the community, because like to your point about not being able to dream, man, I see that on kids' faces all the time, or like intimidated by adults all the time. And like, not judging nobody else's household, but shit, man, like let's let kids be kids because, man, like, if we let kids be kids, that's just going to be powerful. But we also got to, connect with the inner kid in us as well. Like, I mean, I could tell many stories about that, but that's one thing that I try not to let die. I've always felt like my childhood was kind of taken away from me, but I always try to reconnect with who I was as a kid because like ultimately that's just how I personally, you know, stay daddy. You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
Hey, I
No,
got
for
a
sure.
question though, bro. Like, I be trying to stay out of y'all's dog jokes because I don't want to smoke, right?
Yeah.
But I have heard the term "it takes a village." You said it takes a jungle.
A
So
jungle.
I'm
Hey,
trying.
you heard him? You heard
I'm
him?
trying.
Yeah.
I'm
Thank you,
trying.
Mondo.
I thought it was. I thought it takes a jungle. Ain't that what the shit was? My bad, man. I don't be knowing, man. You know, I don't be knowing all these like when I watch Wheel of Fortune, bro. That shit be it takes a
It
jungle
take
to
a,
raise
this nigga said it take a jungle.
Bro, I've
Hey,
never heard that
hey,
before, bro.
Yeah,
hey, my
man.
bad. You know, my bad. It takes a village, you know what I'm saying? But
Okay.
it
Or a
might take
jungle, bro.
it might take
Oh man, that's
it,
funny.
it might take a jungle too. You
All right.
know, that
Yeah,
shit's funny as
it's
hell.
a
But
jungle book, bro. It's all good. That was good, bro.
just for reference, though, I was looking at Mack when I said that, so that might
Oh,
be
now you
where
okay. Okay.
that could be where the slip up happened. You know, uh,
No, man, for sure.
but yeah, man, I think you know, dreams never die. You know, dreams never die. I think of all the songs, you know, from Lupe Fiasco, Dreamin' to Jeezy. You know, like there's been so many songs about dreaming, and like I just feel like dreams never die, and that's the one thing that you know I would say like my takeaway, especially from this conversation, to hear y'all's perspectives, you know, on the subject matter of dreaming. Like it's never too late. Like if you're 50 fucking 5 years old, it ain't too late. You know, it just starts with executing the dream. Now that's the hard part, but to actually come up with the dream and to put in action, like we can all do that. So
Just start, bro. Just start that
yeah,
shit.
One thing that when it comes to execution, I think is super important, right? Is finding those humans that are willing to support your dream, right? Like some people are actually like, I know I'm not the dreamer, but I am the hard worker that allows the dreamer to get to the place where they need to go, right? The person that wants to work behind the curtain, the person that's just like, I don't never need to be in front, but your dream is so compelling that I want to be a part of it. And so, you know, I know as Black parents, right? Like all of our parents are just like, you got to lead, you got to lead, you got to lead. Like you don't follow nobody. And I think there is some truth to that, right? Say those things out loud. And some people are going to choose to be leaders because they believed in those things. But I also say, like, the person that follows the leader, like that first follower, right, is not less than, right? It's just like, yo, who's lead? If Batman is leading, are you saying Alfred is not valuable? Right? Like without Alfred, there is no Batman. And so just kind of like these agreements that we've made historically about having to be a leader. Like, yes, there needs to be somebody that leads, but if ain't nobody following, then it's just a one-man show. And so being confident enough and comfortable enough in yourself that like, I'm the best version of me, right? I can follow Jordan if I'm Rodman, right? Rodman's like, I'm Dennis Rodman, fam. Like, but cool, I'll follow Jordan, but y'all know I'm Rodman, fam, right? And so just knowing that you can be Rodman, the best version of yourself, and still follow the person that is in the front, right? Knocking down all the doors. So,
Yeah, reading that Will Smith book, I think the part that I took that gave me the most light was when he said the 5 people around you are truly who you are. So get them people around you, man, because it'll help take you to where you need to go, and for sure.
no doubt.
yeah, and kind of what Mondo said. You know, my always takeaway was just like, you know, be a leader is I feel like great leaders know when to follow, right? Like I think by saying, hey, be a follower, it's like there's so many people that don't make their own decisions, and that can impact, you know, peer pressure and like those type of things really can get in the way of that. So that's always how I always try to lead. It's just like, yo, I know when to follow because I'm a leader myself. Like, but I'm, you know, but I also know how to make my own decisions, you know, in that and impact it. And, you know, but yeah, I think everybody like, you know, I never read books. I was never a book reader until recently. But every motivational book will tell you, I got the secret sauce. I got the secret sauce. And it's like, if you're not able to make your own decision, you're gonna be falling for a lot of motherfuckers for secret sauce and then end up at Good Burger one day. So
hey, but Good Burger is home, right? It's home of the Mondo Burger. You know what I'm saying?
Nah, Mondo Burger was the rival, bro. Like, the Mondo Burger was the rival.
Yeah, it was good. You're right.
That was.
Hey,
that was
they're coming out with
up.
another one, right?
No,
Mack.
don't say that.
Yeah,
come out. I just looked it up. I think November 29th.
Oh,
shout out to Good Burger because Mack and I love that. Mack used to love to wave his tail at that motherfucking movie, bro. Like,
welcome to Good Burger, home of the Good Burger. Can I take your order?
Straight up, yeah, that movie's fire.
But yeah, man. Anything else? Any last words, fellas? We're gonna wrap it up today.
Oh man, shit, I will. Just keep it nice and simple, man. Continue to dream, man. Don't ever give up your dreams, no matter how old you are. I think that was the biggest takeaway from this episode here.
No doubt, we got it.
Awesome. So for Mack P and for Mondo, I'm Torrean, aka Daddy. Thank you for joining us on another episode of They Call Me Daddy,
Yes,
a
sir.
parents podcast.
They call me Daddy.